All right, let's get right into it. Today, we're going to do something a little different. We are going to take one single kind of cryptic sentence that's been making the rounds online, and we're going to break it down piece by piece. Now, just to be super clear, this isn't any kind of financial advice. Nope, this is all about communication, about understanding how a message is actually built to be persuasive.
So there it is. That's the sentence we're going to deconstruct. It looks simple, right? It's direct, but it's packed with hidden meanings. Let's think of it like an artifact we've just dug up, and now we're going to put it under the microscope together. It seems pretty straightforward on the surface, but is it really?
And that's the big question, isn't it? We're about to go on a little investigation here, to take this thing apart piece by piece and see what it's actually saying, what it implies, and maybe most importantly, what it leaves out completely. Okay, let's start at the very beginning. The first two words. Good news. These words are doing a very specific job. They're here to grab your attention and set the whole tone.
Think about it. Before you even know what this is about, the message is already telling you how you should feel about it. Good news is such a powerful opening. It immediately primes you to be receptive, to kind of lower your defenses and get ready for a positive announcement. It builds instant excitement. But here's where it gets really interesting. The phrase promises something great is coming, but it gives you absolutely zero detail. What is it? Who says so? Why is it good? We don't know. It's basically a promise with no substance behind it at all. All right, let's move on to the next part of the sentence. After making this big, vague promise, the message gets very, very specific about who it's for. And boom, just like that, the message creates a divide. This isn't for everybody. It draws a clear line in the sand. If you have pie, you're in. If you don't, well, this good news isn't for you. This isn't a public service announcement. It's a targeted message for a select few.
And this is so crucial because of the psychological effect it has. If you do hold pie, this message suddenly feels incredibly personal, exclusive, and way more urgent. It builds the sense of community, right? A feeling that you're all in this together. You're part of the special group that's in on the secret.
So now we get to the real heart of the message, the call to action. After setting up the promise and defining the audience, it tells them exactly what to do with a simple command.
So, what does holding really mean in this context? It's not just sitting back and doing nothing. It's an active instruction to resist any urge you might have to sell or trade. It's a command to be patient and just wait for that good news that was promised. Your inaction becomes a deliberate, strategic choice. And the language here is just so clever. It doesn't say, you must hold, it says, please hold. That one little word, please, is doing so much work. It's polite, it feels friendly, it totally changes the command into what feels like a helpful tip from a friend, which makes you way more likely to go along with it.
And finally, the message gives us its last and its most specific piece of information, a timeline. This is where that sense of urgency really kicks in, because now there's a finish line.
What's so fascinating about this timeline is that it's both really specific and completely arbitrary. It sets a very clear endpoint, October. That makes the whole thing feel more real, more concrete. You just have to hang on till then. But it gives you zero reason why October is the magic month.
Which of course leads to the most obvious question, a question the message completely ignores. What in the world is supposed to happen in October? That good news we were promised is apparently tied to this date, but what that news actually is remains a total mystery. The deadline just builds anticipation for an event that's never actually defined.
So, after taking this all apart, what have we really learned? Let's take a step back and just look at the hard facts, the things we can pull directly from this single sentence.
And that's it. That is the sum total of all the concrete information we were given. A vague promise, a very specific audience, a direct instruction, and a solid deadline. Everything we've talked about is packed into just these few words.
And this right here brings us to the most important point of all. This message is defined so much more by what it leaves out than by what it actually says. There's no source, there's no evidence, no explanation, no context, nothing. And realizing what's missing is probably the most important skill you can have when you're looking at any piece of information.
And that really brings us to our final takeaway. This entire message, the promise, the in-group, the polite command, the deadline, it's all perfectly designed to make you act without asking the one question that matters most. It tells you exactly what to do, but it never, ever tells you why. And learning to always ask why, well, that's the key to navigating a world that's full of messages just like this one.
You know how it is, you're scrolling online and suddenly a piece of advice just jumps out at you. It's so specific, so direct, that you can't help but stop and read it. Well, we saw one just like that making the rounds. A really simple message, but with some pretty big implications. So we knew we had to dig in.
So what this all boils down to is this one really compelling recommendation. You know, it's the kind of thing that almost feels like a secret tip you were just lucky enough to stumble upon.
And there it is, word for word. Good news, if you have Pi, please hold until October. I mean, look at that. It's super clear, it sounds really confident, and it even gives you a specific date. It feels like simple, good news, right? Just hold on to what you've got, and the implication is that something good is going to happen after October. Seems easy enough.
But then that little voice in the back of your head starts talking, right? Hold until October. Okay, but why? What's the big deal about October? Is there a huge launch? A market event? Something we should know about? I mean, advice this strong has to be backed by some solid reasoning. It just has to be.
So our mission became crystal clear. We needed to find the why. So we started digging, trying to find the logic behind this very, very direct piece of advice.
Our process was pretty straightforward, really. First step, isolate the main claim, which is obviously hold Pi until October. And the second step, comb through the source material to find the rationale, the reason, the whole point.
So, after all that digging, what did we actually uncover? Well, we looked into the original message, and we definitely found an answer, although maybe not the one we were expecting.
And this really gets to the heart of the whole thing. On one side, you've got the advice, right there in black and white. But on the other side, where all the reasons and the evidence should be, well, it's just a blank space. A big old question mark. In fact, get this, the source itself basically admits it. It says it does not offer any further details or explanations regarding the rationale behind this recommendation. So the reason isn't hidden. It's not buried in complex jargon. It's just not there at all.
And this is the critical distinction we have to make. What we're looking at here is a claim, not an argument. See, an argument has the claim, sure, but it also has the reasons and the evidence to back it up. This just gives us the first part and completely leaves out the rest. Now you might be sitting there thinking, okay, so what? There's no reason given. What's the big deal? Well, believe it or not, this is probably the most important part of this whole thing, because sometimes what isn't there is the most powerful piece of information you can get. And here's why this matters so much. When you get a recommendation without a why, it's not really advice, is it? It's just an instruction. You're being told what to do, not why you should do it. That complete lack of evidence, that's your signal. It's a huge reminder to always ask why, and to really think about where the message is coming from, not just what it says. So I'll leave you with this one final thought to mull over. We all know bad information is dangerous. It can definitely send you down the completely wrong path, but incomplete information, well, that's asking you to take a blind leap of faith. So which one do you think is actually more dangerous in the long run? Something to think about.